Welcome to the next episode of AutoTech Effects 2020. With us, we have Mike Reth, President and CEO of Axiom Connected. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Over the last few years, there has been a lot of conversation about digitally transforming the F&I industry. We also know that there's a huge advance in telematics, on the telematics side, related to vehicles are becoming cell phones on wheels. How has that affected the warranty space, the F&I warranty space?
Yeah, I think the digital transformation of F&I products is still ongoing. We have a lot of mediums in which we can deliver product to consumer in a digital presentation platform like a menu or a DocuPad. We now have certain retailers using mediums to present F&I products as part of the loan or loan calculator offering or lead gen that's out there. We're seeing more and more e-contracting and e-signing, which is something that the industry has been searching for many years. So I think digital transformation of F&I is slowly making its way into the office and into the selling process. But we also think that we're a long way off. It's not the same as any other digital interaction that you might have with your bank, your mortgage company, your investment advisor, your life insurance agent, which are more correlative to the type of industry that we're in. As it relates to the vehicles are becoming more and more intelligent. They are a connected device, no different than your smartphone connects to your headset or your car for music and video. It really now is becoming a very significant connected device. So much so that people are saying, how do we leverage these two connection points? Over the last few years, there's been many theft protection or GPS type products that would plug into an OBD port and send signals and readings from the OBD port or the CAN bus. There's been companies that have figured out a way to attach a guarantee or a warranty product to that type of medium. And I think there's probably pros and cons using the device or hardware being installed. Some of the challenges are hardware needs to be installed. And what we've learned over the course of the last year is that the OEMs are very keen to do two things. One, they want to make sure that their technicians are the only ones that can really have access to that intake point. Their diagnostic equipment is the most sophisticated, it's the most inclusive. They have the ability to diagnose virtually any challenge in a vehicle using their diagnostic tool, as opposed to going to a general garage that could tell you maybe emission issues or general OBD readings. The bigger part is they want to make certain that nobody else augments that port. And so some of these devices like, Progressive's UsageBased Insurance, their snapshot tool, and some of the others that are out there are going to probably find it more and more difficult to be able to plug in, have the firmware read the information, and give the data that is important for the insurance underwriting or the risk management side. But what we've seen more and more of is the OEMs are now very keen to let their platforms be open or accessible by the consumer. By doing that, you're now allowing other applications to ride on the infotainment screen or interact in some form or fashion with the consumer, but also the vehicle. And I think from telematics standpoint, that's a great place to be as that evolves over the next few years.
Sure. You mentioned usage-based insurance. If you take that concept and you apply it in the F&I warranty space, how does that work?
Usage-based insurance is something that has been targeted by insurance companies and telematics companies the last 4 to 6 years. And conceptually, it really is a great medium to underwrite risk more finitely. So for those that don't know, it's the ability to take driving data, vehicle data, over air through the car and have that lay against an underwriting risk profile. So if you have traditional auto insurance, it gives you the ability to say, these two drivers although driving the same vehicle, living in the same zip code, one drives 20,000 miles a year, the other drives 10,000 miles a year. The 20,000 mile a year driver has more braking, stopping, acceleration than the person that drives less miles per year. So it even takes into concept what times of day, how much of the vehicle performance is being read as an insurance risk profile. So the ability to rate a vehicle or a driver based on the literal driving experience and the data, that's a great tool for many companies. Yeah. In warranty, it's not being done yet. The reality is it can be done in the same fashion. We as an industry have always used long-term single pay premium products. And what that means is that if you take a 6-year, 7-year, 100,000 mile plan, the consumer's term was measured primarily on time. We didn't have the ability to know that one individual may drive 20,000 miles a year, the other driving 10, but we do know time, so we can measure time, and that's how we've managed risk. But there may be months or even years in some cases where that product truly is fully earned because that customer has driven through their mileage limitation as well. The other thing that you can do with mileage, as an example, as one indicator, is you're able to truly manage life cycle of that car. So you know exactly when factory coverage expires. You know exactly when a consumer is exposed to their own financial risk in the event of a breakdown. So it gives you the ability to start targeting customers that may have not purchased something at point of sale on the vehicle, and now offer them a different type of product, a product that's post-transaction. It's something that not a lot of people have really tried to do. We've seen direct-to-consumer product, but they really are just maybe a small augmentation of a dealer product with a long term and a single premium. Thinking along the lines of auto insurance and how they might add a mechanical breakdown rider to your auto insurance policy. Paying monthly, adding cars and subtracting cars when you want them to, based on the life cycle. Those are some of the concepts that an odometer reading can give you, because the unit economics are far more palatable to the consumers.
So you've mentioned some of the benefits for the insurance company. On the UBI side, one of the ways to incentivize the customer is to offer discounts based on their driving habits or improved driving habits. How would you incentivize the customer with a warranty or F&I product?
Sure. When we rate products in our current product portfolio, we rate them primarily on historical information. We use a lot of rounding. We use a lot of assumption of make, model, experience, right? And but if we're being truly finite to risk, you could have the same vehicle with 10 drivers and have 10 different user experiences related to mechanical function or mechanical fitness. So really what the idea of a connected warranty ecosystem might bring would be giving each individual vehicle and each individual driver price points that are truly fit their use. As an example, rideshare is an enormous way for people to make money as a supplemental income or even a primary income solution. In many cases, rideshare is excluded either from a product or from a loan, and so it makes it difficult for them to have coverage. And I think because of the perception that, well, those cars are driven 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles a month in some cases, and so what really is the price point that would fit under the traditional products? Well, with a connected warranty product that allowed us to regulate and manage the risk on that individual product, you could effectively take the make and model of that car and the literal mileage that rideshare driver is using and give him a price point. And that might be dramatically different than maybe someone that does rideshare on a part-time basis. And then you compare that to someone who drives 20 miles each way to work every day. So each one of those drivers, although they may have the same make, same model, same zip code, they should be rated differently.
Right. So you already mentioned on the consumer side, you mentioned rideshare, which is on the commercial side. What about fleet?
Sure. There are many companies out there, specifically now with the advent of so many delivery services. Think of Amazon Prime, think of Instacart, think of virtually any business or service business today. It's mobile.
Yeah.
So when we say commercial use, it very well may be just transportation in a private passenger automobile. It's not a commercial truck that that may have a lot of tools and excess weight and materials. We're talking about just a passenger vehicle with branding and signs, and they're dropping groceries off as an example. So the ability to manage fleet, which would be one business managing a large number of vehicles, they could manage life cycle of every one of those vehicles based on the literal use and mileage age of that particular vehicle. You can do that by creating a spreadsheet, walking out into the property, and manually checking all of those components that would manage where you are in the life cycle, or the ability to read that information against a unified platform is probably the best way to do that. Today, many businesses that are managing fleet on a connected fleet basis are using one of the OBD styled GPS or cellular connected device plugged into that vehicle and providing the right information, which gives a very intelligent view into the covered asset, in whether it's a delivery vehicle, a commercial truck, or in some cases it could be agricultural equipment. It could be a skid steer or something like that. But it's giving the owner of the fleet the ability to manage their information very intelligently, and mutually independent of every vehicle that might be in there.
So we covered at least 3 use cases where that's very much applicable, in their incentives and benefits on all sides. One of the concerns, especially on the personal side, would be data privacy.
Sure.
Obviously, with OBD, it's a big problem because there's really no way to control that. It's just a hardware device that's plugged into the vehicle, and where that data goes, there's really no control over that because it's happening outside of the OEM channel. How does direct connection to the vehicle benefit, and how is data privacy and data protected in the case of connected car?
Yes, data privacy both in the United States and the UK, Europe, and around the world is now an enormous concern. Massive regulation is out there and forthcoming. And it's truly just giving some confidence by businesses or people that collect information to the consumer, saying, look, we'll use this appropriately. We'll do it with your permission. You'll allow us to use this for the purposes of the business relationship we have. And when you're done in our business relationship, you have the ability to delete that information.
Yeah.
So I think the use of personal information, that is probably the primary concern. But there's other ways to not only protect the data stream, but it's also what type of information is truly available. There's anonymizing data using neutral servers that give you two-party consent on each side of the transaction, as an example. If I have a consumer that may have bought a warranty product through any of the distribution channels, a car dealership, a direct-to-consumer proposition, a lending institution, they buy the product and they want to make their vehicle accessible to the connected service that might be available. In that instance, we would present the VIN only to the neutral server, and the neutral server would confirm on their side, yes, that's a valid connected vehicle. They would not pass that VIN back, but just authorize, yes, this is a connected vehicle. Yep. And from that point forward, only the data elements that were agreed to by the private owner of the vehicle and the OEM, would that allow that to be transmitted. As an example, in warranty, we don't need any personal information. We don't need geolocation.
Yeah.
We need odometer. We need trouble codes, so that we can be predictive. With just odometer, we're able to manage so many things throughout the life cycle of that vehicle. Maintenance. We're able to look at warranty expiry, both OEM and aftermarket. So there's many items that we can use to manage that warranty for that consumer more effectively.
There are two benefits. One is there's no hardware cost. There's nothing to connect. There's nothing to worry about interfering with CAN bus or getting knocked off and so on. Second, customer stays in the driving seat and they control which data that particular vendor has access to, and they can turn it off at any point in time. So what are your predictions for the OBD hardware market for the future?
Sure. I would add to the over-air sharing of data out of a vehicle. I think the OEMs are very encouraged by creating a better consumer experience. And the reality is, with the proper permissions, dual permission, the consumer is really making their vehicle more intelligent. Their ownership experience is more intelligent. It gives them the ability to, as they live their busy lives, it gives them the ability to own their car more intelligently. They can maintain it, bring it back to a dealership where there are certified technicians, certified parts that can actually enhance the value of that car downline when it's documented that it's had all its maintenance on time using OEM parts. There's a vehicle history that the dealership can use to promote, hey, this is a premium used car. There's a lot of intrinsic value by connecting the customer and getting them to come back. We've all used traditional paper retention tools, but with this digital retention mechanism, you're giving the customer something far more usable in their daily life. And the reality is, consumers of today, outside of automotive, are using are giving permission to their favorite retailers or their favorite mediums to say, yes, you can give me information at these cadences, or when my subscriptions are up, or if I looked at an ad, they can serve that information at an appropriate time. It's far more palatable by the consumer to get this information. Now, when you look at an automobile, the automobile for the United States and Americans is typically the second biggest investment that they've made in their household. So, and sometimes they have two cars. So the ability to manage those things effectively as they live their lives and go about their day, by having something remind them more prolifically, whether it's against their smartphone or inside the infotainment center, now they're able to really, be able to use that vehicle to its fullest. I try to tell people all the time, it's no different than taking your Mac laptop and tethering it to your iPad, to your Apple TV, to your iPod Air Pro headset. It's a connected world. It's an Internet of Things. And, for the longest time, you could connect your phone to possibly, attach to an OEM app, but there was very little functionality there. There was definitely no warranty information. There was no ability to engage or, use push notifications. That is the future. Consumers have said, we absolutely want to be communicated this way, but we don't want it to be obtruse. We don't want it to be offensive. We don't want to be bombarded with just newsletters and ad calls all the time. They want it to be intelligent, and by having a connected vehicle, you can serve them appropriate information at the time that the vehicle hits each milestone.
So customer is ready for this as long as consent has been granted to use the data. OEMs are opening up their doors or becoming more flexible as far as making that data available to third parties. What about dealer world and TPA world?
Sure.
What adjustments need to be made there?
This is a tool that I think will only make that entire transaction and consumer relationship even more valuable at the dealer level, but also the third-party administrator or warranty level, because now they can communicate, they can see more finitely the impact to what their warranty is actually achieving for that customer on that particular vehicle. As an example, if they know that there's an overheat DTC code coming out of a vehicle and it's connected, and it's throwing a warning to the consumer that they may have otherwise ignored because it just was a service engine light, right? They don't know really what it is. I mean, that could save hundreds of thousands of dollars in an engine repair, because pulling over in a timely fashion so that the vehicle cools down is the only thing that can save that particular severity of a claim. But what it also gives is the dealer the ability to see that their consumers are performing maintenance at the right time. If the dealership is connected to the communication platform, now they're more predictive. Imagine a scenario where the vehicle triggers a DTC repair code. It comes off and says, "Hey, there's a problem. It's going to be an overheat issue," and it flashes. Well, now that communicates with the third-party administrator, who sends a warning to the driver. Pull over. Your vehicle is a critical failure mode. The dealer is notified that their customer is in the midst of a breakdown. They can send a push notification. Do you need a tow truck? Should we have your car brought back? How can we assist? So now they're being predictive in their customer service experience. That car then gets brought into the dealership. They have a rental car ready for that customer to go, and now that customer can continue on the process. But behind the scenes, all of the combined components of how they service that are aligned now. Now we know what to go look at the moment the car hits the shop. They plug into the vehicle. They can determine what the cause of the failure was, and how do they fix that appropriately. So I think from the dealer's perspective, it gives the customer a very succinct view into their vehicle ownership. For the warranty provider, it gives them the ability to manage risk and be predictive, preventative. A lot of preventative maintenance are reasons for denial of claims. So this allows them to subtly encourage people to maintain their vehicles appropriately per the factory specs. So, this entire proposition, consumer, OEM, dealer, warranty provider, and all the allied service providers, it really gives them something that they can manage the right lifestyle expectations throughout the ownership of that vehicle.
And the number of touch points with that customer increases.
Well, and the whole thing is digital.
Yeah.
And if we've learned anything over the last 6 years, is that consumers want to buy and be engaged digitally, whether it's on their telephone, whether it's on their smartphone, whether it's on their computer, or even now through their smart television. They want to be communicated digitally.
We have discussed a number of benefits for the customer, for the dealer, for the OEM and TPA. What about the monetization of this product?
Yeah, I think one of the things anybody asks is the technology going to make me more cost effective, more efficient, more service oriented? How do I monetize a device or a tool? And I think what the consumers are saying are, we have absolutely allowed brick and mortar stores to shift and pivot in how they provide goods and services to us. Grocery stores now have their own call in advance pickup of groceries or a delivery service. You can get that at any big box retail shop now. But it's all controlled through some kind of consumer profile on their phone, right? Mm-hmm. The idea of being able to connect your personal auto to your warranty gives you a lot of abilities to maintain correspondence with the people that are servicing you. So if it's your OEM, if it is your dealership relationship, if it's your insurance provider, or in this case, your warranty provider, as your life and ownership needs change throughout the 11.5 to 12-year vehicle life cycle, you're able to really get to the heart of when those milestones in monetization should occur. As an example, when a car hits 60,000 miles, there's major maintenance requirements that are typically done, usually a set of tires. When you get to 90,000 miles, there are even more maintenance requirements. You might be into that second, possibly even the third ownership cycle there. Are there consumers that don't have warranty protection at those milestones? As that car gets to at the end of a consumer journey, there's equity mining that's now available. There's retargeting the consumer for refinance auto loan solutions. There are user-based insurance, discounts and benefits. So if the consumer knows that having their vehicle tethered is going to make them more efficient, it's going to make their ownership more valuable to them over the long haul, and then also save them money or protect them against things, that's really where the monetization comes into. And then, there's an entire automotive services ecosystem that is glad to participate in that monetization, from service providers to insurance providers, loans, lenders, warranty product providers. There's many, many elements that will have access to this. And so, the encouragement of the OEMs to say, it's time for us to allow our consumers to connect to their vehicle and make it super simple, I think is absolutely apparent that consumers want it. And they can do it in a very morally responsible, confident manner to share that information throughout the life cycle journey.
These are all great developments, very exciting. Where does the industry currently stand, and where is it heading? What are the next 5 years looking like?
Sure. There are very capable device companies out there that are either attaching GPS units or plug-in dongle units that are riding along cellular networks, or GPS, or even Bluetooth, just right out of the vehicle to a smartphone. So those devices exist, and they are serving a purpose. There's some cost challenges depending on the quality of that plug-in device, the installation to make sure that it's installed without damaging these sophisticated automobiles. And that's kind of probably the biggest concern. Firmware is a challenge because, as these vehicles become more and more sophisticated, they're effectively computers on wheels now. If those device companies aren't updating the firmware to work more intelligently, they become not as useful and then obsolete. What we've learned in the research over the last 2 years is that the entire OEM industry is moving away from the OBD port being so accessible. In fact, we've heard they want to lock it down, and meaning they want to control it. So that would mean that you're possibly looking at OBD ports being put in the door jamb. So there's no way to drive your vehicle, have a device plugged in while the door is not closed. So that's some of the dramatic and drastic actions I think some of the OEMs are thinking and talking about taking. But the other thing is that while they want to do that, they're very open to now opening the CAN bus and the infotainment and the ability to share that information, so long as they can do it responsibly and correctly with the dual party consent to protect the consumer. I think they see the opportunity of being a data supplier, just like a cable provider in a sense. Sure. They become another medium for that customer to be connected. In this case, to the asset that means the most to them. The device world is it's dependent upon the type and how sophisticated the plug-in or the hardware installed device is. Could be as much as $5 to $10. It could be as much as $200 in terms of some of the more sophisticated, integrated, hardwired products. So I know that getting those installed are primarily aftermarket, so they're not being done by OEMs. And that question comes back to the age-old, is this going to negatively impact the performance of my vehicle? So I think the path forward is, what we've learned is that the OEMs are investing in vehicles that are going to communicate over air smartly to a variety of people within the ecosystem. And it's going to be for those companies that have the ability to ingest that information, promote goods and services that work well with that consumer's ownership journey. So we see warranty after the point of sale, post-transaction. That's a term that not many people are really looking at. An entire industry is based on selling finance and insurance and warranty products from the time the customer buys the car until they leave the dealership. There's a few that do post-transaction follow-up, but once you get beyond, let's say, 3 to 6 months, Now those customers fall into the direct-to-consumer industry, and there's a variety of ways that they market to consumers. But the ability to really target customers intelligently using a connected medium is really, really where we see the industry going. We see products being dramatically changed. You're no longer going to take a dealer product with a different price point and premium finance and put it into this proposition. You're going to see more of the subscription style solutions that are coming. And it's not just for mechanical. It can be for all the products that are being presented in finance. It can be any one of those, for quite honestly. So more opportunities for a consumer to purchase the protection products in the warranty industry at the different life cycles within the vehicle's history are things that I think we'll see more of, and the ability for more and more shared information services through the vehicle, I think, is where the consumers will really start to see the value of opting in and being part of that, as opposed to opting out or saying after my connected service or my OnStar or my UConnect subscription is over. I would see them looking at ways to keep that connected.
Well, thank you, Mike, for sharing valuable insights into the industry.
Yes, thanks for having me. Thank you.